Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the HOMFPV Unicorn. Down underneath the canopy is the CATX Vista, and because it's a micro, of course, we have the CATX Nebula Nano. It's running 1203 5000 kV motors. The all-in-one board down here is pretty unique. It has the USB port kind of out the end. Of course, it's an F1 board with a BL Heli S 4-in-1 10 amp ESC. The props are the Gemfan Hoki 2036 quad-bladed props. Of course, the frame is some sort of plastic for prop protection. It comes with 2 battery straps, an extra canopy, an extra set of props, a little wiring map for the flight controller. See the shape down there? It's a little bit unique. Comes in this silky smooth branded bag, and it does come with stickers. Motor post to motor post, I'm getting just about 90 millimeters. It weighs just over 91.25 grams. I flew it on the recommended 450 milliamp 4S battery, which brings the weight to just about 144 grams. So I think this one's going to be a hard pass for most people out there. So if you're doing your research on whether to buy this product or not, please jump to the outside flight footage or watch through to the outside flight footage, because I think it's going to be important for you to see, because outside it just doesn't do very well in the mildest of winds. I tried a number of different days, and I got some days where the wind was very, very low, single digits as far as miles per hour. And it's about as calm as it gets around here, and it just doesn't do any very well. It does excel inside. Inside, I found it fun to fly. You know, it's heavy. It's not a traditional whoop. A traditional whoop is going to beat the pants off of this indoors, especially in a race. Or if you want to do any sort of aerobatic tricks, flips and rolls inside, it's going to be much easier with a much lighter traditional analog whoop than it is with this. But for those people who maybe are only doing DJI and you're looking for a quad with the DJI system in order to be able to do the HD FPV inside, you might be looking at this. And inside it does pretty well. It's a little big, I think, for most places, and it does turtle mode very, very well, almost too well. It'll do a full flip when you try to turtle mode, so only give it a little bit of stick. But because of the weight and the size, I think you're going to have a pretty large indoor space. Of course, if you've got the flight experience and the stick skills to rip around in the space that you're already flying in, then this could be viable. But if you want something like this that flies not only indoors and outdoors, I think it's a hard pass for most people in that regard. Inside, you can manage it. I've been flying a long time in my house, so if you're just getting started and maybe you haven't experienced flight inside at all, be aware that it's not easy. Your margin for error is very, very small, especially when you're going through doorways and hallways and avoiding various things. Maybe you have children in your household as well. So you have to judge that for yourself on whether this is a quad for you. Of course, you don't have to try to fly it around fast. I like to fly fast. My roots is kind of that pod racing sort of flight feel. I want to have everything just whizzing by me. But of course, you can go slower, and I am flying in acro mode. You can definitely fly in angle or horizon mode if you prefer. But I just want to stress one more time, please pay attention to the outside flight footage that is coming up shortly. I found all my flights on a 450 milliamp 4S battery, regardless of brand. I did try some Tattoo batteries, as well as, there were kind of some off-brand batteries. I suspect they're still made by G&B, but they had other labels on it. I didn't do any RDQ batteries on this particular one, but the flight time came out to be right around 2 minutes and 50 seconds, regardless of whether it was inside or outside. Now's the time we need to go look at that outside flight. Okay, so hopefully you can see that tree up front. It's barely moving, and that's about as good as it gets in my neck of the woods. So we've got very low wind. I went out on multiple days to see how this would do. As the wind, would come and go, I would actually kind of wait for a gap in a breeze. How the wind will kind of come up in your area. It'll puff through, I like to say. But you can see all the camera movement in the image that you see. You also see a little bit of canopy as well. I hadn't noticed that in the inside flight, but I think I may have bonked the camera a few times in some of those inside flights, because I did do that first. So I bail on the slow flight and try to do some faster flight. And it does okay in faster flight, but it felt a little bit like you had to fight it to go where you wanted to. It just wasn't easy to fly outside, and you can see in some of these different moves it's not especially smooth. That's part of me trying to fight it to go where I want it to go, because it just seems like it's not tuned to handle any breeze whatsoever. I could be wrong. Maybe there's something amiss with mine. So if you're doing your research, please do more. Make sure you're watching multiple videos and you're going out there and getting a lot of different perspectives. I'm have a big bias in. Oh, that was a prop wash, by the way. That was some reason why I'd done some prop wash testing, and I knew it would, so I kept doing that until it would. So prop wash, if you're not familiar, the quad kind of pitches up and then usually yaws around to one side or the other. That's an uncontrolled maneuver. That's not something that I was doing. That's another deficiency in this particular quad. I think if you're looking at this quad, a better alternative is something like the Synlog 25. The Synlog 25 flies really nice, actually, but it is bigger, and it is a pusher. So those are some things you kind of have to come to grips with. I do have another one coming to the channel that I think is much more capable and even smaller than this one. So I'll put links down in the video description to the Synlog 25 as well as the one I'm reviewing, which is the iFlight Alpha A75. I think it'll be out relatively soon. I've been flying that one quite a bit. I've kind of held back on this one. I kept waiting for even a calmer day to see if maybe I could get like a 1 or 2 mile an hour day, and maybe it did okay, because inside the house we didn't see this, but outside with the slightest of breeze we see this. You might be asking why I chose this flight. You know, it's not very clean. It's not very nice. You know, at some point I have to choose something. So I picked one of the better days out, and I had to pick a flight. Well, I felt I had to pick a flight that showed not only its capabilities, but also its deficiencies. So we did that with some of those moves, especially like the yaw spin thing I do around the swing set, you know, where I come around the top part of the swing set. It's pretty choppy. You're kind of fighting it around. Showed the yaw washout with the dives that's not very capable, and that is the end of our flight. That one was also 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So again, if you're looking for a prop guarded Vista or digital FPV system that's running the Caddx Vista, these are the two I can recommend at this time. They are far superior to the Unicorn. This is the iFlight Alpha A75. I've been flying it a fair bit. You see I've got grass all inside of there. It's smaller, so it's better in the house. It runs a smaller size battery, so the batteries will be cheaper, and the flight time on it is just about the same. So they've kind of done something very nice that wasn't done with this one. The Synlog obviously is a lot bigger. It's a 2.5 millimeter prop. You can see here it's got 5 blades on it, and it is a pusher. This one does have the capability of mounting a third-party HD camera if you want some of that silky smooth footage. And it's also got this little lead up here for that camera if you choose to use that. So much different quads, much better than this. Now the other one you might want to look at, and it is from the same brand, is the HOMFPV wingsuit. I hear very good things about that, but I have not reviewed that. I don't have any experience with it, so make sure you do your research if you want to stay with this brand. Speaking of brand, I think this brand has gone away. I've heard some developments, and it seems like this brand has been either sold or handed off to Holybro, and Holybro has their new version of the wingsuit, which has got a new name. It evades me right now. So that's something else to consider about this, is if you needed parts down the road. I don't see this listed with Holybro. Maybe it will. Maybe they just haven't come around to it yet. But that's another concern, is if you were to need a new board or a new frame or something, where do you get it? Because I don't think you'll be able to get it from HOMFPV, because I think that brand has gone away in some business manner. Of course, you know, this is just one talking head. You shouldn't take my word for the Holy Grail or something like that. You should do your own research on that as well. There isn't much to talk about with it, because I'm already telling you, you pretty much only want to look at this if you're flying inside, which is a very limited market. I didn't have any problems with durability. You know, I flew it inside and banged it around. I showed you kind of a, I don't know, I hit the ground, so it's to bounce off the battery outside. There were other crashes where I might bonk into the swing set or a tree, but I didn't have any damage to the quad. One of the things I find fairly inconvenient is how they did the camera mount with the notches, which means you have to take the screw out and then you have to move the camera forward. So your camera is going to be hanging in there loose. So you're going to have a hold of that in some manner in order to shift it forward so you can put the screw back in. That bothered me a little bit. And also this camera angle, when it comes by default in this position way back, you can't adjust the camera angle down much more than a millimeter or two, because the back of the camera hits this hump right back here. You can probably see the back of the camera right in there. So when you try to move that camera up, it hits this bump. So in order to get less camera angle, you have to move it forward. I think that's a flaw in the design. I think if you're going to have adjustable camera angle, then it needs to be readily easy. Taking the screws out and having to hold onto this camera somehow, you're probably going to have to use a tool to get in there to hold the camera. Otherwise, you know, you're going to have to fish it out of there because it'll fall down in the canopy or something. The board is another interesting issue. You know, they've designed a board themselves, which is all fine and well. But again, it's a parts issue, and can you get parts for it? Because if you were to buy this and the board were to die for whatever reason, maybe using turtle mode and having a stuck prop, which is always something I want to warn against, can you get another one of these boards? And you see there, I've lost a couple screws out of my carbon fiber frame, so that is also an issue. I've actually lost 3. I think that occurred actually on my indoor flight. So the frame is relatively rigid, even without the carbon fiber, you know, securing that down. So we need some more screws down there. I'll see if I can find some, because eventually this one will probably be given away, or I'll strip it down for the Vista and the motors. The motors do feel nice and smooth if you're looking for smooth motors, but again, if it comes only in this brand, can you get these motors? Probably not. They did cut out for the USB, the activation that you've got to do for the Vista, so that's all fine and well. Of course, your other USB port's right down here. It's protected by the carbon fiber, and of course, when you're flying, you've got a battery, so the likelihood you would actually hit something that would hit the USB port, pretty minor. And they also, I didn't mention it in the quick roll, but they do have a capacitor right down here, which is good. Still don't see 25 volt. I can see 25 volt, 470 microfarad. Can you see that down there? Hopefully. So it's 25 volt, 470 microfarad capacitor, which is good. I mean, with these HD systems, you want to have as clean a power going to them as possible. I really don't have much more to say about it. If you have questions about it, please let me know down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'll hold on to this for a while before I strip it down or do anything else with it. I think mainly for me, it's just parts, motors, Vista. Don't know if I could even reuse this frame because of the mounting pattern could be different. It might have 25 by 25 mounting. Yeah, it looks like it does. Just the board's a bit elongated and the components are a bit different. Did put what appears to be a boot button on it, so that's a nice touch. I guess there's not much more for me to say about this. If you're interested, I don't want to discourage you from doing your research and possibly buying this. Just be aware that it has some gross limits of flying with any sort of breeze or wind. That's the whole point to this video. And if you're looking at this, also, as I've already recommended, the Synlog 25 is a much more capable flyer, still has prop guards, has the ability to mount an HD camera. It can be a naked HD camera. It's got that little plug, or the iFlight. I think it's the Alpha or the A75 HD. I've been flying that one around. I think I'll have that review ready yet this week, and I'll have that out. Much more capable, those other two, than this one, both inside and outside. So if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the section down below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.